Live on Facebook. Hello, everybody. It's Street Talk with Trish and Scott and two, not just one, but two wonderful love coaches. Tori Love, who this is her first time on Straight Talk, and the great Paul Sterling. Um, so, and what a great topic we've got tonight. The topic being, what do people really mean when they're talking shit? So I thought it'd be fun right off the bat for each of us to kind of share vulnerably either something that we say that's not really, like that's not really fully clear, or maybe has a hidden meaning, or maybe when we get triggered, right? And we're really, so I thought we'd start with that, and then maybe tell some tales of clients, because all four of the people here are amazing love coaches. So I'm going to go from gallery view to speaker view, and there's Tori. So Tori Love, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Scott. Thank you for the warm introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be on this show with you today. Hi, Paul and Trish. Thank you, Trish, for having me on your show as well. So thank you. So yeah, when the subject came up, the topic for this show came up, I was like, yeah, there's so much hidden meaning behind what people say, what I say, what I have said. And I've done a pretty good job of cleaning up my communication in the past few years. But it's interesting to notice, like, when it still creeps up, when I still want to, when things kind of come out sideways, because I'm not super clear on what it is, that I'm actually trying to convey, or what I want or need. And so, it's a great prompt, Scott. What is something that I have said that wasn't exactly what I mean? There's so many instances, but just to choose one. Probably, like, going somewhere when I didn't really want to go, but there's that feeling of FOMO, like I'm going to miss out if I don't go. And maybe saying something like, "Are you sure you want to go? Maybe we should stay. Maybe it'll be boring, maybe I don't know, like there's a great movie on tonight. We can cuddle up and get sexy and do some stuff." And instead of just coming out and saying, I just really don't want to go. I'm really not feeling it tonight. And to be quite frank, I'd rather be cuddled up with you in bed.
Well, I can't imagine anybody would choose going to a movie over cuddling up in bed with you. That's kind of a interesting example, because I can't quite imagine that. Mr. Sterling, welcome to the show.
I hope I can stay for a while. My internet is going crazy. I keep getting bounced. So I love technology.
Oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, no, your internet is sucking eggs. It's sucking eggs, Paul. You're frozen.
Phone.
Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to my incredible teaching partner that I get to this show. Get to see her once a week for the show, at least. Trish, what comes up for you?
We agreed, Scott. That's now twice a week.
That's right.
So the first thing that I heard when you said, "Well, what do people mean when they say stupid shit?" And I was like, "I don't know, Scott. What do you mean?" What do I mean when I say stupid shit? Generally it's for some need to get met, right? So I don't necessarily mean to say stupid shit. I'm just human. So get it off. So an example of something that I've said that's just, sometimes things come out really awkward and weird. Maybe that's just me, but if y'all have an experience like that, like, don't leave me hanging and kind of like drop something into the box and like say, yeah, I have that too. Well, but it's one of those things that, sometimes I'll just be like in the moment and I'm just expressing without actually processing or thinking about what I'm saying or what my intention is. And I'm just like flippantly like sharing whatever and wanting to get my needs met or whatever, and it can come off a little like pokey or off or weird or
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and isn't it? And we're going to try going back to Paul in a moment. I'm going to see how his. Oh no, he's still not. I'm just going to him, and then he went black. There he is. Now, Paul, it's still a little weird. And since we're talking about it, Tori, your internet's good, but your camera, I think you actually might want to clean your camera. You look just a little fuzzy, like there's a little bit of stuff on it or something. Are you noticing that, Trish, with her? It's one of those days, you guys. I spent an hour with Facebook today trying to get them to square something away. It's just, what can I say? It's a technology weird day. And there's my roommate, Paul, who, can't get his internet. I mean, we could you could pull up a chair and sit next to me, and we could do it that way.
So cute. Do it.
Here we go. All right. Here we go.
Guys, I like that we're being creative here.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely one of those nights. One of those shows. All right. So, Paul, what's your example of either when you?
Well, here's a perfect one. It's first place. There's the initiation where you say something stupid. The other part is when you respond stupidly to something that somebody else says, or you respond like Trish said. We're always trying to get a beautiful need met, so it's responding from a place of defensiveness or correcting them or whatever. And my beloved and I have been together and not together and had this challenge. And at one point she said, and this is the embarrassing phase of this conversation, but she says, sometimes you're domineering and you trample on me. And my immediate response was, no, I don't. Which I had to stop and think about that. Like, wow, does she feel dominated and trampled on occasionally? So I am 6'3", 230 pounds. So I'm a big guy. So if I raise my voice, and it's like, it's one of those stupid things. Defending yourself almost never works. Defending myself almost never works. I'll give you an example. My dad used to say, huh?
It doesn't? Oh shit, I'm doing it wrong.
Well, my dad, when we were little kids, used to say, you want something to cry about? I'll give you something to cry about. We never said, please. My brother just beat the hell out of me. I'm looking for another reason to cry, and anyway. Oh, hi, guys. We have other people that want to be part of this whole thing. There you go. So anyway, that's my little part, is like defensive, correcting somebody. So, and it's a human condition, as Scott says, how perfectly human to want to defend myself or to, not know how to translate what people are saying to me.
Yeah, I can really relate to that, Paul. Thank you for that. It's, as soon as I feel those defenses come up, it's like my whole body, the whole physiology of my body changes. And I notice it right away. And I just like want to lunge. And man, it really takes something to stop and notice when we're in that mode, in that defensiveness. And it really takes something to put ourselves over there with the other person to see like what's between the lines. What are they actually trying to communicate to us, to me? And if I can just set my defenses down long enough to get over there with them, then I have a better chance at really having empathy and connection at the end of that.
Beautifully stated, Tori. I mean, that's really, you just gave like the magic cue. So it's really want to acknowledge that. Good job.
Well, there's no better way to create less connection is to be defensive and not hear the other person. Ooh, let's create less connection right now. That's exactly what all of us want, right? Like, no, I didn't do it, and I can't hear you because that would mean that I would have to accept that you're in pain and that I might have caused it, regardless of whether I did it on purpose or not.
Yeah, the other big one that I talk a bit about it, is compliments with a zip.
Oh.
And it's like if I came and said, well, Trish, you look amazing tonight. You're all dressed up. You look gorgeous. The hairs, the shoes, all of it. No one will notice the zit on the end of your nose. And it's like, where does all the attention goes? And a lot of times we give a compliment and say like, how nice you look for a loser. And we bring up somebody's history. You're really good at doing this now, and you used to suck at it. And it's like, so the message, you got to choose one or the other. Am I telling you you suck, or am I trying to give you a compliment and appreciation?
I want to acknowledge the people watching the show, and we love taking questions and comments. Welcome. We've got quite a few people in our Zoom room, and of course, people watching on Facebook. And I'll be periodically, I'm going to speak less and let them do most of the teaching. So I'm going to check comments. But Peter, who's in our Zoom room, writes, I have an example. When I was 22, I had a Ukrainian girlfriend whom I wanted to marry. And one time after sex, I made the remark that it was unfortunate that she had to use contraceptive foam. What I meant, but didn't express clearly, was that we should have a child together.
Aww.
But she was being harassed at the Italian restaurant where she worked. She was uptight and she blew up at me for being so insensitive, screaming at me, why is it always the woman's responsibility and men don't care? She ended the relationship. Years later, she found out that she couldn't have children anyway, and I miss her. Yeah. So there's a good example of a breakup over a really sad misunderstanding. Thank you for sharing that, Peter. That's really vulnerable example. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and as Marshall Rosenberg said, the normal outcome of most communication is misunderstanding. And so this is a perfect example of that. And we all have a lot of those.
Yeah. So speaking of Marshall Rosenberg, perfect segue. This is a jackal, which is the symbol in nonviolent communication of kind of that part of us that's reactive, as Trish was talking about earlier, when we get defensive, when we get reactive. My dog is intrigued, by the way. So here's a little thing I want to just invite all of you to remember. When somebody's being reactive and says, leave me alone, I hate you, I can't stand you, know that big jackal is actually just covering up a little one that's like, oh, I really love you and I don't know how to relate to you. Oh, I feel really hurt and I don't know how to express it. Oh. So just remember the little guy that's always inside the big one.
Bravo. And to go with that, another way of looking at it is it's NVC. Part of it is a translation process. And we're hearing.
What is NVC?
Oh, sorry, nonviolent communication.
Good to know.
And nonviolent communication, to give you the example of it, it's not like fisticuffs. A lot of times violent communication is if I'm trying to get my needs met at the expense of your needs. If I don't care about your needs and I only care about my needs, effort, force, that's violent communication. And I'm guilty of having done that a lot in my life because I was afraid I wasn't going to get my precious needs met. So I used that. Anyway, Marshall Rosenberg said that, did I already say what he said? I got so much. The normal outcome of most communications, misunderstanding. There we go. Done.
What did Marshall say? The
normal outcome of most communication is total understanding.
So here's the thing about that is that there's 7.8 different realities on this planet. That each one of us grew up in a very specific way, understanding language, whatever language that you were taught, and think in the way that your parents taught you to think. So there's all these perspectives in the world, and my version of love, my version of like here's an example. What do you call this?
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Well, what I call it a soda. Like whoever's watching, what do you call it? Who calls it pop? And then there's a couple other names for this. So whatever it could be.
Sugar, death,
carbonated sugar. Oh
yeah.
So
Worse than sugar.
Carbonated chemicals.
yes, ooh, I love those.
Love that.
Regardless of what you call it, when I say, hey, I had a soda, and someone's like, well, what's a soda? Or Tori, I love you. And maybe you grew up in a really amazing household that love meant, someone nurtured you and pampered you. But love to me means, a slap in the face meant love. That's how I correlated it. So when we're talking and when we're communicating with other people, like I'm sharing what my reality is when I say things like, Tori, I love you. And I'm, tugging at your, I'm like needy and I'm like tugging at you. And I'm saying like, are you sure you don't want to go? Are you sure you want to go to that party tonight? Are you sure? And when I'm really wanting to say, I really want to spend time with you. And I'm feeling like maybe we didn't have enough time this week. And can we just like watch a movie and drink soda?
And Trish, what you bring up is a perfect example. I call it needs shame. We all have these needs. And if I'm ashamed of, there's 3 levels that I look at: needs shame, needs embarrassment, needs embrace. So if I'm ashamed of my needs, I think there's something wrong for even having them. I'm defective. If I'm just embarrassed, which like that last example might be it, I want you to read my mind, know what I want, and give it to me without me having to ask for it. And if you don't love me, because I'm too embarrassed to actually be vulnerable, to make a clear request. Would you be willing to stay home with me? And I'm afraid of asking you because I'm afraid that you might stay home and then be resentful and I'll pay a price. So oftentimes when I'm afraid of making a request, I'm afraid that my partner, one of the things is they may say no, but the more painful one is they say yes and then resent it. And so I'm just hoping they read my mind and do the right thing.
Yeah, that's what love is reading minds.
But haven't we, especially when we were younger in relationship, we all did that. We just assumed when you met your soulmate, because when you meet the right person, you're going to live happily ever after. Remember, all of us grew up with a terrible lie. You find the right person and you live happily ever after. And part of that is that person always knows exactly what you need and want and provides it to you, right? So how much disillusionment did we have to go through before we realized, it doesn't work that way,
I'm sorry, everyone, but Walt Disney lied to you. Like,
yes,
he lied heavily that it takes communication and then you're going to have to negotiate and you're going to have to create boundaries and someone's going to have to cook and do the dishes. Shoot. Sorry. Didn't mean to like pop that bubble, but yeah. And I think, you're right there, Scott, is that the disillusionment is actually a really big learning curve. Mm-hmm. It's huge because we have to learn how to communicate with each other in a kind, loving, compassionate way. Because we're going to say stupid shit and they're going to say stupid shit because we're just kind of like human beings, which are like trompy and like, we just like tromp all over all the pretty flowers. But we have this consciousness that makes us want to connect. And we're like, this machine is really heavy and bulky and I'm stomping all over things and I'm just being like needy and wanty. And I have to understand what Scott's feeling or what Paul's feeling or what Tori's needs are. And that takes a level of practice and a level of willingness and a level of really actually truly wanting to be there in the skill building sense. Yeah. Building them.
And one magnificent skill, if you draw a triangle, when people communicate what they want is they want to be heard, understood, and valued. And like a lot of times, the big pain point is I don't feel heard. They don't listen to me anymore. And the second point, though, is they listen to me, but they don't understand what I'm wanting or needing. And I don't know how to get through. And the harder I try, the worse it gets. there's this thing, if we only communicated more. No, no, no. Sometimes the more we communicate, the worse it gets, because we're communicating in a way that drives us apart. And the third one is valued. And when there's a way to listen from the head versus listening from the heart. Listening from the head is I can repeat back the words that you said, but I don't feel any connection. Versus listening from my heart, I have this no wonder factor. No wonder you feel the way you do. My God, no wonder. When I listen to my partner, when she felt occasionally dominated and trampled on or whatever, when I got over my own shame, it's like I went, oh, no wonder. I just think I'm speaking with enthusiasm. And I can see where on the other side, it might sound very different. And if I can enter her world, it's like, oh, I get it. And no matter what I said to try to defend myself, if I had gone down that road, it wouldn't have helped. I could never have convinced her that she didn't feel trampled on or dominated at times. It wouldn't have worked.
And also her veil of past pain, right? Like however she heard you is the way that she was taught that behavior is to go into one's brain and to calculate it and unfold that. Oh, when you raise your voice, that's what that looks like. And who knows what her trauma could be from that place or what her experience was, right?
Yeah, Trisha's bringing up a really good point, which is to really get to know each other and to know ourselves. What are the veils of past pain? What are the areas where I am passive aggressive, where I do have trouble asking for what I need or want? I just did a session tonight with a client who revealed to me something very, very personal about his first sexual experience, and it was very traumatic. And I'm the first person he's talked to about it. And it seems like it's probably the 6th or 7th session I've done with this person, but all of a sudden, so many things became clear. That's why certain things that I know about are that way. That's why he thinks that way. And the point is that we all have had trauma. We've all had disillusionment, right? The disillusionment that it's not you find the right person and live happily ever after, and how do we translate that disillusionment? And what are our veils of past pain? And in deep, intimate relationship, ideally, when we're dating, share, these are my issues. These are the things I'm working on, as opposed to acting like everything's great and just showing you how amazing I am. So you're going to now fall in love with the fantasy projection of me, guaranteed to hit disillusionment. Boy, isn't it a little bit make more sense to lead with vulnerability? And also to be curious, to share, this is what I'm working on. What are you working on? This is the pain that I'm kind of carrying into the relationship. What's the pain you're carrying into the relationship? And that, as scary as it might sound, creates authentic intimacy, emotional intimacy. And is a great way to see, is this somebody who can even talk like that? Because that's ultimately what you're going to need to have a quality long-term relationship, if you're looking for a quality long-term relationship. And I see we haven't let Tori talk for a while, so I'd love to get Tori's response to that. I saw her nodding her head wildly, so.
It's funny because I'm a little in my head about everything that you were just saying. I'm caught a little off guard, but that's okay. So I'm gonna actually send it back to you for a second so I can regroup.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank Trish.
I'm gonna share a story about just disillusionment in general. I recently had an experience with disillusionment, and I can't say that I responded in the most amazing way because I'm dating this really beautiful man, and he had this experience. He was hearing something I was sharing on a show, and he was like, "Oh my God, is that the person you are?" And he had believed that he had this idea of who I was or who I am, and who I am with him might be different than who I show up with my best friend or with my mother even. And it's not that I'm behaving differently. It's just that the dynamic is different. So he had this experience where he was really disillusioned about the idea that he created in his head about me. And because it touched something about me that it was really sensitive, I can't say that I was like, oh, honey, tell me more. That's how I wanted to behave. And let's get real. Like, even love coaches have reactions. Oh shit, I just
Absolutely.
blew out the whole world here. Sorry, burst it again. But yeah, even love coaches have, or even coaches or even therapists have reactions. And so when he had this experience, I was like, oh, that's a painful part for me too. And then we had this like scuffle. And the cool thing about it is that when we came back to connection, where I was like, this when I actually named the elephant, I was like, oh, the place of disillusionment. Like, you had this idea of me, and I'm this person. I'm actually this, just what's in front of you. I'm this. I'm a little woo-woo. I'm a whole lot of banter, and I'm pretty direct. And he was like, oh. And that was a place of coming back into connection. So that was just a story. But I also wanted to ask Tori a question about this piece around the trauma piece, about loving someone's trauma. And maybe you've seen, maybe you all out there, and maybe you guys have seen this quote go around, but it's something about love is learning someone's trauma and working with them with it. It's way more concise, but have you seen that one go around?
I've seen similar ones, not
Yeah.
that particular, but yes.
I'm wondering how you feel about that.
I think it's beautiful. I have one that's pretty similar. It's like, everyone has baggage. Just find someone that's going to help you unpack. And that's really beautiful, because we do all come with some sort of baggage, whether it's from childhood or what we've accumulated through adolescence and adulthood. It's all there, and if we don't address it just continues to pile on top of each other. So it is really, it takes something to help somebody with their own, but the real work is in doing it for ourselves first. Like, really unpacking our own trauma, acknowledging our own trauma, and looking at how we react to things in our own life with our own trauma. And that can really give us access to what other people might be going through with the trauma that they have. And it's not so easy to get over. It's like, oh, that wasn't a big deal, just get over it. And that's not always the case with people. And so we really need to have compassion and empathy with each other, and what we're all bringing to the table and what we're all working with.
I forget which teacher it was. I think it's Brene Brown said the most cruel words, the most cruel phrase that is common in English language is "get over it." It's a really cruel thing to say to another person. And of course, here in Love Coach Academy, we lead with empathy, and so, yeah, leading with empathy, and all of us have our own timing of getting over things. I've worked with clients that are still in a lot of pain over relationships that ended up many years ago. Again, veils of past pain, or still trying to work it out, sort it out, what happened. And we all are on our own timeline. And who are we to judge another person's timing? That's where it's like empathy, 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 and then give more empathy.
And a lot of times it's invisible. I went over the handlebars of my mountain bike a couple of years ago and broke my hand. Now, after I took the splint off, there was no visible, it didn't say broken here. But if somebody touched me, I was in reaction that was disproportionate to what they would have expected. And it's just, we're all, if you're older than 10 years old, and maybe even there, we all have been wounded. This is the planet of the walking wounded, and we're dealing with ourselves with compassion and with others. And it's like almost all communications, either an act of love or cry for help. And the challenge is, the more desperate we are, the more tempted we are to cry for help with a jackal. Like, if I was to say, Tori, you're so cold and distant and mean, you should come give me a hug. It would be really inviting, right? It's,
I want to acknowledge, by the way, some of the people in our chat room that are chatting. So thank you, Jay, Bonnie, Nancy, Peter. It's great to have all of you, and I'm appreciating your comments. And earlier, Trish was talking about how, your love coaches get triggered. Absolutely. I got triggered earlier today with somebody that I love, somebody that I work with, and I got triggered. But I'll take credit. I realized, what? I'm triggered. I need to take space. And so if we could at least learn that, at least learn how to notice, when am I in reaction? Can I slow down? Can we slow down? That is like the most important thing. If there's anything I want to say when you're in that reactive place, slow down, get centered. And can you both slow down enough to get centered? Or are you already in the red zone, in which case you need to take space, which is actually what I need to do today. I was tired, I was cranky, I got triggered easily, and I took space, and I took the dogs for their WALK. I can't say the word because they'll get all excited, and they're right here. So slow down, get centered. Slow down, get centered. One last little thing along those lines. Marshall Rosenberg, who was really an influence on all of us, Paul and I had the good fortune to study directly with him, had a wonderful line. When people say, oh, I tried compassionate communication, it didn't work, right? And Marshall said, remember, give empathy, seek to understand, give more empathy, seek to understand, and then count to 1 billion. Point being that we don't use compassionate communication to manipulate someone into being the way we want them to be. We do it to seek to understand them. And it's important to notice that, because sometimes it's like, okay, I'll be kind for a minute. I'll be empathetic for a minute, but then you got to get the fuck off it, right? That's not quite the point.
and there was an expression that says, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? They were half right. It is what you say. It is how you say it. It's also what they hear and how they hear it. So there's 4 different places in there that things can go wrong. Yeah. And it's really important to slow it down. Can you tell me what you heard? Oh, you heard. So Trish, can we do a quick example?
Yeah, but can you use get over it?
I'd like to, but it won't work for what I'm doing.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
I just want you to hear it differently than whatever I say. I'm going to. So, Trish, I really care about you. I think you're amazing. Can you tell me what you heard me say?
Did I hear you that you're a creepy old man and that you think I'm cute?
Oh! Oh!
I'm highly caffeinated and sugared tonight.
Take that.
No, we were having a roast.
Take that soda away from that woman. Wow. Okay.
It's brutal up in here.
So this is
me to do something, and I did it.
So, thank you. Now I could go 1 of 2 places. I could say, Trish, you need your ears checked because that's not what I said. You're always hearing me wrong, which would create more distance. I could lean in and say, thank you. No wonder you're upset or disappointed or whatever. Let me try again. Because see, at one level, there's this new age responsibility. I know I'm treading on thin ice here, but new age thing is, if I said it right, that's all I need to do. And if you heard it wrong, that's your deal. Versus if I want to be really accountable in my communication, I'm not only accountable for what I said, but I lean into what she heard. Mm-hmm. So wow. So let me try again, because I definitely wanted you to hear something different than that. Mm-hmm. Can I try again?
All right.
So Trish, I really appreciate working with you because you bring something very spontaneous and youthful and courageous to the communication. And I enjoy doing classes with you most of the time. Can you tell me what you heard me say that time?
Beside the backhanded compliment,
Yeah, besides, sorry, I'll extract
I
that.
heard that you appreciate what I bring and
Mm,
that there's a level of connection that we share.
thank you. And a level of trust too, that I trust my vulnerability with you. And so that's really important.
And the something that's happening behind the scenes for everyone who just watched this experience is that Paul knows some of the things that have happened in my past. He knows that I've had experiences, experiences, and people who have taken advantage of me because I'm cute or because have hyper energy. Like, because of those things, I could potentially hear it the way that I chose to share it. Like, it's my filter that I'm listening from. And so he could have responded and was like, "Oh my God, that's not how it blah blah blah." Like, he could have said so many different things. But what he chose to do is lean in and knowing my filter, my story, my pain, my veil, that he was like, "Oh, can I try again?" And what I mean, and he used a language that actually connected to me, right? Like, that's a key piece. He's not going to run away, but he wants to be a safe man in my life, and so does Scott. And Tori wants to be a safe person, and the people that we love, we want to be safe for them, right? So I could now come back and say, "Oh wow, Paul, I'm so sorry that I heard it that way. I know that you love and care about me, and I know that you have a lot of respect for me, and I have a lot of respect for you. I don't know why it happened that way that I heard that, but thank you for really showing up for me again."
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And one of the things that Marshall, I quote Marshall a lot, but he said intimacy is the ability to enjoy someone else's pain. Now it's a little bit of a stretch. So this is not sadistic, but it's like if you enjoy somebody's pleasure, if your kids are playing and you see them playing, you normally feel joy. The problem is if we can't be with, it might be an easier term, be with somebody's pain, then we try to fix them. And if I tried to fix Trish rather than be with Trish, then I would try to either defend myself or tell her she shouldn't feel that way, and none of which would have increased the connection. So can I be with my own pain? We have a bunch of shows on the Love Coach Academy about addiction. If I can't be with my pain, that's where alcohol, drugs, a lot of these different addictions come. I can't be intimate with myself. I've got to numb my own pain. And I do that at times, like Netflix, I binge watch Netflix periodically when I don't want to be with my loneliness or my disappointment or something. And so how much intimacy can I have with myself? How much intimacy can I have with someone else?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
And just, I was going to pass it actually, so you might want to say what you want to say.
Oh, well, I want to go back because something took place and we all kind of laughed, but there's actually it was interesting, like when, Paul set it up and said, okay, hear it differently. And, he was saying how you're cute and you heard it as, oh, you dirty old man, you're flirting with me. And we all laughed and it was funny. And what's also interesting? There's real pain in there, both sides.
Mm-hmm.
The very real pain for women who never know if someone's being nice to them because, they see you as a piece of ass.
Yep.
And the pain for men, especially as we get older, who want to be nice and don't want to be seen as pervs. And just interesting to take that little piece that we all kind of nervously laughed at. And as I thought about that, wow, that was actually a lot of nervous laughter.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath it, wow, there's actually very real hard issues underneath all of that,
Yeah. Like, there is a lot of hard issues. There's a lot of the way that we're indoctrinated to see women and to behave as women, and a lot of like gender roles and stereotyping. And then the man piece, like, it's not like we change what we're attracted to as we get older or as we are young, right? It's just not like it changes, but it's the way that people go about it's the way that people have gone about getting what they wanted. And that's what I think what's shifting now. I super appreciate you bringing this, like pulling it back in, because I think that, I mean, just because I'm going to age, like, and does that make me like, as I'm going to age and I'm, you know, enjoying my, like, I like guys in their 30s and their 40s. So when I'm 70 and I'm like perving on little 40-year-old dudes, am I going to be like a dirty old woman? Likely, you know? And I think that it's that place of just like, you know, Paul and Scott and Tori, we have our enjoyments. We have the things that we want. And just because you have those doesn't make you dirty or doesn't make you like not lovable or to be pushed aside. But there's this like other ageism thing that we have to address in our society too.
Totally.
Ugh, there's so much to dissect. This is a different show.
Yeah, I just had a different show, but it was so there, you know, it was really interesting. And, you know, it's funny when he asked the question, in my mind, that's where I thought you would go. I'd say, I wonder if she's going to actually go into interpreting it as, you know, being a perv or something like that.
Well, I was like, well, shoot, I have to do this on the fly.
Yeah, no, and just notice how, again, it's so in the dynamic of our culture, you know.
I also don't think that Paul's a dirty old man. I think he's a really loving, kind, compassionate friend who's listened to me cry and just wants to open his heart. Like he's a really good friend. I don't think of him.
Yeah, and I think that the other thing that is that the only reason we do anything is to meet a precious need. And the challenge is sometimes if we have a lot of need shame, it comes out really, I hate even use the word, but sleazy or something, you know. And you don't feel that way when you look at a beautiful flower. You don't go, oh, I'm ashamed, like, versus you go, oh my God, look at that beautiful flower. Yeah. Look at that amazing beauty. And it's like, it's amazing just to watch when you see it in life and to be able to express it and go, that's amazing. I saw a guy dancing on YouTube that there was a dance group and I went, oh my God, I wish I could dance like that. I was instantly enthralled by his movement and his beauty or handsomeness or whatever it is. It wasn't like a sexual thing. I'm not attracted, but I was envious. I was really envious because it's like, man, that guy can move.
You know, and it's true is like we've kind of shamified people's authentic expression based on other people's behaviors. Like I'm curious, Tori, when I say, oh, just get over it, what do you actually hear? Like, can you translate it?
What I actually hear is, I don't care. I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to hear this story one more time. Just be done with it already. Just get over it.
I don't care. I don't want to hear it again. I'm not interested in you.
Yeah.
That's what I hear. It's like I'm in my own thing and I want to be in my own story.
Mm-hmm.
This is really painful, you know. And there is that, so again, using that example, the person who's saying just get over it, can they learn how to set a boundary with compassion, right? Like maybe they don't want to hear the story again, and that's okay. But can they do that in a compassionate way? Can they do it in, wow, you know, I'm noticing that you still have a lot of pain around the situation with your ex. And we've talked a lot about it. And I feel like I've shared what I can. And I'm just noticing, I don't think I can give you the quality of care right now that maybe you're looking for. And I feel kind of bad about that. But I also want to be honest with you about it. Like I'm trying in this moment just to improvise how to set that boundary in a compassionate way, right? How to point to the elephant in the room that I really kind of don't want to talk about this again. And yet I do care about you.
There's another part to this that's behind almost all communication is either an implicit or explicit request.
Mhm.
And if they're crying about their past relationship but not giving you a request, you're trying to make up, what do you want from me? I'm confused. And the confusion is making my nervous system a little wacky. So could you like give me a clear request? Oh, I want to talk about my ex and I want some empathy. I want to talk about my ex and I want, what is it that I'm wanting from you? And it's a lot, it makes it a lot easier for the listener. Could I get 10 minutes of, listening, and would you feedback what you heard me say? Because I really need some empathy about this and to get it out of the way. And a lot of times we don't give them a clear request. So we don't get the empathy we want. So the story comes up 500 times because it never gets felt really heard once.
Yeah. Yeah. When I'm coaching people and I'm hearing the story over and over, I'll ask, what is it you really want me to understand? What is it you really want me to understand? And hopefully they can get clear on what it is. And I can reflect it back to them. Because that's the thing, we do repeat our story until we get the level of understanding that we're seeking. And it might be empathy. It might be collusion that the other person really is a dick. That sometimes is what we're looking for. It's not very compassionate, but it's pretty human. So what is it you're really wanting me to express or to understand in this situation? And actually, that's a good thing for us to remember for the topic of this, because we all want to be understood.
Mm.
We all so want to be understood. And then once we're understood, we want to be cared for. Right? If you really understood how much that hurt me, then maybe you'll show me the care that I'm seeking. If you really understood how important it is to me that you go to this movie with me, then maybe you will. Right? It's like understanding, care. It's like those are the two that we're really almost always seeking.
Yeah,
And-
Scott, I want to acknowledge you for that, because that's something that I have learned so much so from you is really having that level of empathy, but also being able to recreate somebody and not just regurgitate what they said, but like Paul was saying, like that listening from the heart where you're really bringing yourself into their experience and really getting them at the level of their experience, and not just what they're saying, but everything that's embodied with it as well. And man, I just can't even tell you the magic that I have seen, the profound magic I've seen that have on relationships when I can recreate my partner in such a way that it dissolves whatever the issue is literally into thin air.
Thank you. That I really want to acknowledge. I learned that from Marshall Rosenberg. That's the genius of feelings and needs. Because if you're feeling sad and angry because I haven't met your level for respect. What's it feel like to be sad? What's it feel like to be angry? What's it feel like when someone that I want to respect me isn't meeting my need for respect? What's that feel like? And that's how I can drop in, because we all have experienced those feelings and we've all known those needs, and we've all known what it's like when those needs aren't met by someone that's important to us. So it's like it becomes a very easy way to translate another person's experience and to really feel it by focusing on the feelings and the needs, the unmet values, the unmet needs, and the uncomfortable feelings that go with that.
And the challenge is in the understanding piece, heard, understood, valued. In the understanding piece, people are afraid that understanding equals agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of resistance. And then the other person gets desperate to be understood. And the listener thinks, I'm desperate for you to agree with me.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm really desperate for is understanding. And I'm afraid, like if I'm listening, I'm afraid that if I understand you, it equals agreement. Yes, I am terrible. Yes, I am whatever it is, that bad guy that Trish described. So I'm going to resist understanding her because I don't agree. And then it escalates versus de-escalates.
Yeah.
We really got to ask yourself the question of what's the intention here.
Mhm.
So, sometimes I can get kind of indignant or hurt, or like I can take something wrong. So human. And what I've learned to do is, like, because I know that my top value is to stay connected, instead of reacting, sometimes I'll just take some time to come back into understanding what my values and needs are for myself. Sometimes it takes me a couple days even to get to clarity underneath my upset, get to clarity underneath my pain or my sadness or my anger. And then I can come to a place of, like, actually, that person said something, or I said something that I obviously wanted to be heard, and I wanted to create connection from that I was having some friction there. So it's that place right there too, right? Of, like, what is the intention here? Is my intention to create more connection with Paul? Or am I just gonna, like, react and like poke at some stuff? Because I want your attention, and I want your compassion, but I'm gonna do it by way of, like, being prickly, or I'm gonna do it by way of being passive aggressive, or I'm going to do it in the way of silent treatment. Like, there's a lot of, like, tools that we're taught in this society to, like, utilize getting our needs met, which also I'm going to totally pop this bubble again. Sorry, y'all. Pop. This is not, like, you can do it better. There's ways. There's loving ways that create and weave more connection and more intimacy and more juiciness, and are significantly safer and way more fun. If you want to.
My God, this is the first time there's been silence for like 7 seconds, because usually we're all like, so.
Biting my tongue, just biting my tongue.
Paul, tell us about the class you're teaching tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Scott, well, there's a class tomorrow on compassionate communication for couples facing challenges, stress, and changes. And right now, hopefully all you out there know what a dog year is. Like Scott's dogs here, 1 year of a person's year is 7 dog years. And COVID locking us at home together, it's like 1 month of COVID, we're spending more time together than we normally would in a year or two. And it's put a lot of pressure on our ability to communicate. And so we're going to give you some communication tools and practices. So it's going to be interactive. You're going to get the essence of it, and then we're going to practice it, and you're going to be able to start using these tools. And go back to that thing I said, is like all of us want to be heard, understood, and valued. And what gets in the way, and there's 5 triggers. I wrote a book called Argue Less, Love More. It's somewhere around here.
Oh, you took it away from me.
I took it away. You were using it.
He caught me. I was like using my little swirly thing on it, and you took it away.
Oh, now I feel bad. Now I'll have to bring him back a copy of my book.
And you gave me this. He gave me this as a Christmas present. This little swirly thing for the computer, and I was using his book. And oh my God, it was like, "Thou shalt not use my book to put the little swirly thing on." So that's what happened.
There are.
We can meet multiple needs right now. I just want to say that we can utilize Paul's book for what it's actually to be utilized for.
I replaced Paul's book with The Art of Tantric Sex. That's what I'm now using for my little swirly thing. So.
How about we actually get you a mouse pad, but this time we're going to print the Argue Less, Love More on it.
That's good. That's good.
So part of what we're going to go through is the 5 triggers that basically stop open and honest communication in its tracks and block any chance of intimacy. And it's not something that, like, you get the aha once and then you're done. It's like going to the gym. All 4 of us love coaches, go to the gym regularly, testing these stuff and building the muscles. It's an ongoing process to get better and better at communication. It's not a place that you arrive. It's an ongoing journey. And like Trish said earlier, Disney lied to you. It's like when you get together with the perfect soulmate, it's happily ever after and you can stop working. And it's more like the Lord of the Rings. When the journey starts, that's all the hard work and the challenges. May you be blessed to find somebody worth going through this journey with. And may you have the tools. If you want an incredible relationship or remarkable relationship, you need remarkable relationship tools and skills. And that's what Love Coach Academy is all about. That's what I've been doing for almost 28 years now, is studying from the first times when I studied with Tony Robbins and Marshall Rosenberg and Byron Katie, and the list goes on of studying with these amazing masters and learning from people like you said, Byron Katie, not Byron Katie, Brene Brown on vulnerability. You know, when I have new clients, that's the first video I send out to people is Brene's, because to have a great relationship, you need to learn, have a relationship with your vulnerability. So when does the class start tomorrow, Scott? You've got the...
It starts at the same time that the class always starts, Paul. There it is. Remember Mad's snappy answers to stupid questions?
I totally do.
Right.
What are you actually needing here, Scott? If you're going to say stupid shit, what did you actually
No, I did. I just said stupid. We both did stupid shit because by now you should know it's 10 o'clock in the morning because it's been 10 o'clock in the morning for 3 years. Right. So, and then I was like giving the snappy ass answer. So I was doing stupid shit answer. How dare you not know what time this class starts? You live in my home.
Oh, and we've got the advanced one just in case. So
it lost its roar.
That's when we get our reptile brain, and we'll learn about communicating from your head, your heart, or your hurt. And then we'll also, so the head, heart, hurt, those are 3 different languages. You'll also learn whether when you get triggered, do you go to collapse, do you go combative, or do you go to courageous? Those are also 3 different things. And it's really important to know where you go and where your partner goes and what to do about it. And when somebody gets triggered in their reptile brain, how to bring them back up into their heart again. Because most of the shit we do doesn't work.
It's true. It's true.
It just pushes them further away.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say, Trisha, you had said something. It's like when people go into reaction, I can either give you compassion and lean in or defend myself from you. So I can either lean in and be with you, or I can defend myself from you. And a lot of times when we make a request that comes across as a demand, I want to pull away and defend myself from you rather than lean in and give you what you want. So learning that thing about making requests is going to be a critical part of tomorrow.
10 a.m. 10 a.m. And seriously, if you're interested in coming to the class, it's actually a class that's wonderful. Trish has done a couple of them. And every week we have really cool love coaches teaching. So if you're interested, I will put the link in our Facebook page, and it'll also be on my Facebook page. If you go to my profile page, I'll put it there. And I'll also put it in the Zoom room. At 10 o'clock, you could also private message me. It's part of a really cool series. So you can sign up for just tomorrow's class, or you can sign up for the whole series. And for the shows that are the ones we've already done, like Trisha's class, we have wonderful recordings of it. So if you're interested in our courses, let me know.
And there is a fee for that, right?
There is a fee. It's $20 if you just want Paul's course tomorrow, or it's $100 for all 10 classes. It's a 10 class series. Tomorrow I think is class 5, but if you pay the $100, you'll get the video recordings. You'll actually get the video recordings for the whole series, but you can also join the live ones starting tomorrow.
And they're all like, each course is worth the $100 by itself, and you can replay it and replay it. These are things that you don't listen to once and it's like, oh, I've mastered the piano. I watched the 1 hour recording on YouTube. It's like, no, you keep going back and back. And thank you so much, Scott, for making this happen.
My pleasure. And the great classes. Last week, Jessica did emotional resilience. Trish did a whole one about the abandonment wound. And we're going to continue doing these classes, including Tori. We're looking forward to having Tori teaching. Speaking of which, Tori, I'm putting the spotlight on you because we want to know more about what you're doing.
Yeah, so hi everyone. So what I'm doing these days is I'm doing coaching, mostly lifestyle coaching for people that want to get themselves together in their own personal love development of themselves, to have themselves be completely filled up to begin to get into a relationship. So we can come into our relationships whole and full. So if you're looking to um, really learn how to nurture yourself, how to become more aware of your triggers, become better in communication, and really how to up level your self-love game, then please reach out to me. I would love to work with you.
Beautiful. And how do people reach you?
You can reach me on my website at torilovecoaching.com.
And that's TOREELOVE coaching, Tori Love Coaching, 2e's.com.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So let's wrap up with each person giving one last brilliant wisdom nugget around tonight's topic. Each one, last one, and I'll go first. What do you guys think? I said it before, but really, as somebody who does this all day long with people, learning to slow down and manage your discomfort first. Wow, am I triggered? Am I angry? Am I reactive? Why? Right? Like manage your stuff, ideally quickly, and if not, take space and sort it out. But whether you're able to do it quickly or whether you need to take space, sort out what's going on for me, and then come back to what's going on with the other person. Because that's really it. What's going on with me? I want to be understood. I want to be cared for. What's going on with Tori? What's going on with Paul? What's going on with Trish? They want to be understood. They want to be cared for. Just remember that. We all want to be understood. We all want to be cared for. That's my nugget, my nuggie.
Yeah, I would say that for me, like my big takeaway from tonight is like the whole veils of past pain. We all have baggage. We have all have these things that we're looking through, these filters in life, and to really give each other grace and compassion. Just take a moment to pause, like Scott was just saying, like take a moment to notice when we're in our trigger, and really extend our compassion out to the other person, because we're all dealing with so much stuff from our past that we could all use a little bit more compassion and slowing down for sure.
Thank you, Tori.
Yeah.
Trish.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to just share, like, to answer before I answer the question in the chat box. Aren't we moving into being a more divine human, and words matter? And yes, words do matter. And sometimes words can be interpreted awkwardly, and that's very human of us. So as my piece of wisdom, I suppose, is again just remembering finding the ways to really love yourself in the places of just like the crunchy disrupt of humanness, and also remembering the intention that you want in your relationships. Intention of staying in connection or staying in communication is going to take some time, and it's going to take effort. And if you want that, then that's where you can be. You got to take the time to just slow down, be with the person, and invite them in. And one last thing is something that I thought about today and is in this post that I wrote is you can only move as fast as your perspective can shift. So give yourself and the other person some time. It takes time to create new habits in your way of thinking or in your way of behaving. Just take some time.
I love you, Trish. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Me too.
Mr. Sterling.
Wow, I'm a little nervous having the last say here. Well, just remember that there's 4 parts. I said it earlier, Trish kind of hit on it here. It is what you say, it is how you say it. And the other half, though, it is what they hear and it's how they hear it. Do they hear it as an act of love or do they hear it as an attack? And it's really important to know how it lands, to be responsible for the whole communication, not just the half that I did. And if you want to have a really amazing relationship, these are advanced relationship skills. It takes lots of practice. You know, I know Scott has amazing clients. I have clients from all around the world. I have rocket scientists, engineers, really smart people that know how to talk really well, but they have a hard time with communication. This is a course on communication.
Beautiful. Actually, I am going to mention there's some really wonderful comments. So I want to acknowledge some of the comments that came in our Zoom room. Robert writes, oh, I just lost it. Robert writes, well, I'll go with Nancy. Nancy wrote, why believe the lie that God is a God of triggers? How about a God of terrificness? And sometimes it's not, and we can still return to more terrificness. And Bonnie wrote back, sounds terrific. Nancy. Robert writes, realizing the story as a story.
Yes.
Nancy writes back, we must teach ourselves to raise our consciousness. Peter says, thank you, fun. And yes, you will see us on Saturday Night Alive tomorrow. Thank you, Peter. A reminder for everybody, tomorrow night, Saturday Night Alive, Optimizing Health with Deepak Chopra, Dr. Bill Cousins, Norm Shealy, and other wonderful people. There's some really wonderful musicians. Mark writes, I think of the last few months of isolation and focus as the gift of time. We can make our lives resonate with our intentions and ideals. We can do it. Right on, Mark. Thank you. And then Bonnie writes, yes, on the rays of consciousness, sometimes letting go of knowledge helps the rise. Mm-hmm. So thank you. And for those of you on Facebook, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to go to the Facebook page and read those comments, but I will. And I want to acknowledge the majority of people who actually watch this show, watch the replay. So even if you're watching the video replay, you can still put your comments in. I go back, I take a look, and I try and respond. So, and if you enjoyed this, share it with your friends, share it out. That's how we meet new friends. So thank you, Trish. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tori. Thank you, everybody, for watching Saturday Night Live. Hope to see you tomorrow night. Take care, everybody.
Thank you all. Good night. Thanks, Trish. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you all. I love you so much.